Hello, investors. This is Todd Thomas, Associate Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today is Wednesday, November 12th. The time is 5:07 p.m. Coming to you from Boca Raton, Florida to bring you the Revere Daily Market Insight video. Starting with the trend gauge, some slight, ever so slight changes to the trend gauge. We had some cautionary indications on the short-term 50-day. However, the RSP, the S&P equal weight, and mid caps did close 2 days in a row above the 50-day. So we have at least the two green arrows in the medium term and the long term still. The short term, we're still in neutral territory as really the small cap index is just sitting right there on the 50-day moving average and unable to stay above that 21-day moving average. However, the main indexes are above the 21-day. Leaders are still mixed. We're seeing both positive and negatives there, but there are several leaders that still aren't acting well. So we're still keeping that cautionary yellow sub-arrow under the leaders. Today we had a strong open, which faded, some chop, and overall growth lags again today, with value standing out in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. 21 over 21 performed decently today, up 0.46% with 12 issues up, one sideways, 8 down. Turbo 12 got hit for 1.88%, 2 up, 3 sideways, and 7 down. The Big 8, which is a Mag 7 and Netflix, was down 0.82%. Revere Growth 8 Composite, flat at down 0.11%. S&P flat, up ever so slightly. RSP up 0.24%. Q's flat, up 0.8%. Equal weights up 0.23%. The Dow, the standout, up 0.68%. Also, Dow being led tonight by Cisco's earnings. Cisco trading up nicely in the aftermarket. Mid caps were up 0.34%. Russell down 0.3, 60/40 flat up 1/10. GROTECTION up 0.8, and Turbo down 0.31%. Looking at the indexes today, S&P 500 flat. Looking at the intraday chart, you can see we gapped open again today, faded into the lunch hour, and attempted to rally, but stayed below that opening gap all day and chopped into the close. Not much progress at all today in the S&P, but doing nothing wrong either. RSP, again, we have 2 days above that 50-day moving average, as well as the 21-day moving average. So taking those annotations off the trend gauge because of that. Still chopping though, and but making some progress here. Q's also basically 2 days in a row of a tight close. Gapped, faded, never even got close to that gap today with the weakness in the Mag 7. Equal weight fared better. It was up slightly on the day, but that also really gapped and faded throughout the day. Nothing major there. Dow Jones, new all-time highs above that 48,000 level and up 0.6% today. Gapped, ran, and really consolidated all afternoon. So strong action there. Mid caps, again, 2 days here above that 50-day moving average, just barely above the 50-day yesterday, and then making some progress today as it gapped. Tried to rally, but basically closed right around the opening levels. Russell 2000, below both of its short-term moving averages and barely hanging on to the 50-day moving average. Just no relative strength here at all in the Russell, and struggling to find direction after the failed breakout above 2467 back here from last year. So again, today rejected right at that level. High today of 2478. So slightly above that level, but rejected pretty hard. VIX basically flat, up 0.38, 2.2%. In neutral territory, below 20, but above 15. US dollar basically flat today, not much to say there. Metals really the standout today, with gold up 1.61%. Gold miners up 3.31%. reclaiming the 50-day moving average on Monday and making good progress. Really just a base. Going to pull back to the 50. Silver, probably the strongest precious metal chart here, almost at all-time highs. Huge volume in the SLV index today. And IBIT lost the 200-day moving average yesterday and today, and just barely trading at that $100,000 level. Overall, bonds were flat on prices. The 20-year bond prices were up 0.18%, with the 30-year yield trading down about 5 basis points today at 4.66%. As the government shutdown is ending, and also the 10-year down almost 6 basis points as well at 4.065. So back below that 50-day moving average in the bond yields. MAGS, which is the MAG 7 proxy, down 1.14%. And that is it for the charts and the inter-asset correlation. Let's go to the tail of the tape now. Overall, stochastic indexes, 5 are now turning up, 1 is sideways, and none are trading down. That's unchanged from yesterday. For the Revere Growth Composite, I believe that's also the same, 3 up, 2 sideways, and 3 down. The NASDAQ still pointing down dollar, and bonds still really going sideways. However, on the percentage of S&P stocks above the 5-day, at that cautionary 80 level, anything over 75 to 80% of stocks trading above that 5-day moving average is a short-term overbought signal for us. The NASDAQ 100, 65% are above the 5-day moving average, so more in neutral territory there. VIX up about 1.2% today. Fear and greed went up a little bit today to 35, still in the fear range, and we won't get new AAII or NAAIM numbers until tomorrow, so we'll see what happens there. Still operating under the bull case in the main indexes, initiate a rally and trend above the 21-day moving average. News today, oil falls on OPEC supply being projected now for 2026 to be in line or above demand, sending oil prices down below 60, oil down around 58 and change, or 4% on the day. Pretty nasty day for oil, and oil stocks got hit and was the weakest groups of the day. Overall, AMD surprises on data center forecast. That news came out last night, but AMD was definitely the biggest gainer in the S&P and the NASDAQ 100 today. Today's keys are the S&P versus the 21 and the all-time high, below the all-time high above the 21-day, also on the Qs, and the Russell 2000 below the 21-day, but above the 50-day. Day count from up to a consolidation day. 3 days now above the 80 MA and 3 days now above the 21-day moving average. We went over the opening action where we opened up 0.28%. First 2.5 hours traded down to 68.30, then shot up to 68.58. Could not overcome those gap open highs, trading the base for 90 minutes, and then made a low of 68.41 and a high of 68.51. So overall, average true range of the S&P dropped slightly, 1.15%, but still above 1. And overall, the best sectors today, bond yields. Actually, this should be bond prices being up. Metals were up, gold and silver. Jets have been performing well. Steel, as well as on the downside, the XLE and the USO down substantially today. OIH, the solar ETF, as well as the IBD 50. Today, GROTECTION bought a position in Advanced Micro Devices and sold Halliburton on the OPEC news. Overall, the Revere volatility adjusted beta is 1.12, with the balance at risk of minus 5.30. So if all stops got hit, theoretically, GROTECTION could pull back 5.3% to our stops. Turbo added new position in TNA, which is the Russell Triple Russell, SoFi, and Lemonade. That brought their beta up to 1.45 and their balance at risk to a negative 5.86. Bottom line, strong open fades to choppy action. Growth lags again, with value leading, especially in the Dow Jones. Thursday's keys are the same. And let's get into the changes in the charts of the day. Looking at the GROTECTION ad on AMD. AMD gapped on news that they are expecting now $100 billion in data center revenues over the next 3 years, and $1 trillion in overall spending, upgraded from around 300 million expected not too long ago, but AMD up 9% on big volume today. Again, gapped open back here, really held its ADMA, broke below that 50-day move, or I'm sorry, the 21-day moving average for one day on a shakeout, and reclaimed that, and some nice follow through close to all-time highs on AMD. Halliburton sold for GROTECTION as it broke that ADMA, and again, this has been really trending nicely along that ADMA, and just not taking any chances, taking a small profit and moving on there. SoFi, TurboTection buy, as that also had a shakeout below the 50-day, reclaimed all short-term and 21-day moving averages, and made a higher high today, which triggered a TurboTection buy on that. Also, TNA bought a position on this as it reclaimed those moving average, but squatted there as well. And Lemonade. Let's go back to the charts here. Lemonade also bought that as it tried to break out to all-time highs. Again, we had a nice earnings gap here. That was a 22% monster earnings gap. Came down, tested that 8 EMA, and has been trading very tightly for the last few days. So that looks pretty powerful there. Going to the 21/21 list on the day. See here. First of all, let's sort this by the biggest gainers. There were several leading names in the 21/21. AMD already went over, SoFi went over, gold miners, Eli Lilly, which has been on a tear ever since earnings here. Nice move back over 1,000, and new all-time highs break out of this year-long base of 36% here. So that's looking pretty good, and those are the types of stocks that are acting pretty well. Micron still riding that 8 EMA. First Solar managing to close up 1.28% after its earnings gap here last week. Corning Glass up 1.23%, so looking okay. Credo bounced off that 50-day moving average again today after it reclaimed it last week, up 1.16% coming into earnings in a couple of weeks. Teradyne still riding that 8 EMA. Again, talked about this Monday, basically looking at a 3-week tight formation here, consolidating after that monster earnings gap a couple of weeks ago, really not doing anything wrong. CLS just hanging right on that 8 EMA right now. Light getting extended here and just kind of backing off of these highs. Again, you can see on the monthly, this has had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up straight months. Very strong stock in the optical networking area. NVIDIA just sitting right there on the 21 and the 8 EMA. Small gain today. CCJ, small gain today, but below the short-term moving averages. Snowflake just trading tight, quiet, down 0.5% today. Really volume just kind of drying up here the last week and a half, and looking at that weekly chart, just trading 3 weeks in a fairly inside range of the earnings, not the earnings, but earnings coming up here in about a month. Raytheon or RTX right on that 8-day moving average. MDB Down on the day, CrowdStrike down 1.95%. Tesla right on that 50-day moving average, down 2%. Veritiv lost the 21-day moving average. A lot of data center plays had a rough day today, and we'll go through a couple of those charts. And Veritiv is they service the data center with some of their hardware as well as cooling systems. So that area definitely seeing some weakness. Palantir also losing that short-term moving average. Confluence today down 3.5%. Halliburton we went over, and again, mixed bag, but a lot of positive names in that 21 over 21. But let's look at the Turbo 12. That's where there were some definite weakness, and these are more speculative names. But SanDisk still a monster, up another 4%, just really kind of going parabolic above that upper trend line. Turbo still holding their position in that and just riding that wave, monitoring it closely. Southern Copper up 0.2%. Rare Earths still riding right along that 21-day moving average, and that 8 EMA now crossing back above the 21, looking for perhaps a trend line break of meaningful push back above that. LABU, Biotech's got off to a strong start today, but squatted, still up slightly on the day. Guardian Health riding that 8 EMA. Bloom Energy had a shakeout below the 21-day moving average today, but closed above it, and still overall fairly strong here. Very extended in the short term, but building this, choppy consolidation up here. TMDX above the 50-day, but down 2.4%. XPEV giving some of yesterday's big gains back, down 2.8%. REN, this is really one of the better data center names, and that was down 2.9% today. Solar Edge down 4.9%, giving back some gains from the last 2 days. And EOSE traded below that 8 EMA today, but closed back above it, down 6.7%. Fluence, this is another energy storage company, down 7% today. So really the big weakness today came from the data center, and NBIS being one of those weak names which lost the 50-day moving average here yesterday and today, making further progress on bigger volume. Street did not like what they had to say with earnings. Definitely not a good sign there with how heavily valued that stock is. CoreWeave, another one. Actually, CoreWeave was the one that also broke through its moving averages and now trading at the lowest levels since back in May. So again, this is definitely the hardest hit area of the data centers. After hours, Cisco Systems trading up about 8% on a beat and raise quarter. Very strong action, and many of these old leaders from back in 2000 getting back above and up to those 2000 highs, Cisco being one of them, and now we'll be up around 78, 79, 84, all-time highs from back in 1999, around 82. So again, it's only taken about 25, 26 years, but it's getting there. On the Dow, United Healthcare was a big standout today, up 3.5%. Other than that, several names up. Some of the pharmaceutical names looking good. Johnson & Johnson following suit again with Eli Lilly. Overall, mixed day, little rotation, but definitely some strong names in the semiconductor area with AMD today. That is it for the daily review. Thanks for listening. Again, follow us on X. Our handle is at Revere Asset, and you can follow me. My handle is at Todd Michael 70. We appreciate follows on YouTube and as well as our Twitter handles. If you'd like to become a client, our number is 855 Real Wealth. That's 855-732-5932. Ask to speak with Dan Stewart or Don Vandenborg. Thank you and have a great day, and we will catch you tomorrow.